The Heat ran into a 7'3" roadblock from France as Victor Wembanyama and the Spurs kept Miami's offense in check. Can they bounce back to salvage the rest of the road trip? We'll break down the game on tonight's episode of Locked On Heat.
You are Locked On Heat, your daily Miami Heat podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
All right, welcome to Locked On Heat, your daily podcast on the Miami Heat. Whether you're tuning in on YouTube or on your favorite podcast app, thanks so much for making Locked On Heat your first listen every day. Join the Cookie Gang and become an everydayer by hitting that subscribe button. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Right now, new customers can bet just $5, and if your bet wins, you'll get $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. Head to FanDuel.com today to get started. I'm Wes Goldberg, host of Locked On NBA Daily and Real GM Radio. I'm here with David Ramil. Both of us are credentialed Heat media members who cover this team every day. We'll get to big games from Bam Adebayo and Andrew Wiggins here in a moment. Plus, we have a question about whether or not Bam Adebayo is taking too many threes or not. But, David, we're recording this after the Heat's 107-101 loss to the Spurs in San Antonio. It's their first loss since opening night. Some good moments in this one, right? But maybe unrealistic to expect to score enough when A, you're missing Norman Powell and Tyler Hero, and B, Victor Wembanyama is playing defense on the other side. The Heat are replacing guys in Powell and Hero who averaged a combined 46 points last season with a backcourt that averaged 16 in Davion Mitchell and Pelle Larsson. Was not an issue against the Charlotte Hornets. Turns out it was an issue against San Antonio. Still, hard to feel that bad about this one. We'll talk about Bam here in a second. Awesome performance. The Heat still somehow gives themselves a chance to win this game. But to me, the story is Victor Wembanyama. You said he was 7'3" just now. That guy's like 7'5". I think they're lying if they're listing him at 7'3". The Heat were down one at halftime, and the Spurs took a 15-point lead in the third quarter. Wemby just took over the second half. The Heat used another run to take a 1-point lead in the fourth quarter, but then Wemby took over again, led the Spurs to an 18-9 run to take the lead and get the win. And you know what? I'm saying all this about Victor Wembanyama and him taking over in the second half, David, and I don't even think he played that well to his standards, but he was still just so dominant.
Yeah, I think there were stretches there where Miami really did a pretty good job of challenging him and making things difficult, whether it was even Davion Mitchell switching on to him and trying to keep him from getting into a comfortable spot, Ware using his length, Bam using his overall switchability and versatility to try and make things as challenging as possible for a player who makes things look easily, especially on the offensive end. And I think they did a pretty decent job overall, but unfortunately, Wembanyama defensively was just too much. I wasn't even too concerned about what they gave up offensively to him. It was the fact that he was just able to alter large stretches of the game with his defense, where it made it difficult for Miami to get into the kind of offense that we've seen over the first 5 games of the season, or first 4 games of the season, where they were the number 1 offense in the NBA. That was not the case tonight because they were just not able to initiate anything at the rim. He wipes out the majority of easy looks at the rim. If you're driving towards the basket and you see this 7-foot plus, let's say, obstacle there, he's going to make things a lot less likely that you'll take that chance and maybe you'll dish it off to somebody, which leads to some opportunistic turnovers. I think that was a big part of it. Was Miami just didn't look comfortable at any point. They committed a lot of turnovers in the first quarter, committed a lot of turnovers in the third quarter, then a lot late in the game when they really needed to be almost perfect to try and hold on to a win. And unfortunately, it was just impossible given Wembanyama's stature and his versatility defensively. Like his just sheer size is such a challenge to overcome. And there you are attacking the basket. You see this thing in the way, and then all of a sudden you're trying to dish it off to somebody. Well, that leads it to Devin Vassell or Stephon Castle or somebody else. They're just going to be able to poke the ball and initiate some kind of a transition opportunity, and that puts Miami on their heels. So it was just a really tough challenge for the Heat, and it's been a tough challenge for everybody in the league too, because the Spurs get off to a historic franchise best 5-0 start to the season. So pretty impressive run for San Antonio and just an unfortunate loss for Miami.
Are you a believer now in Victor Wembanyama? You were like, you were putting the kibosh on the whole, you know what, he's not that great in our preview to the game. Where are you now? Come on.
Top 10 player, let's say.
Okay. Way to give him his credit. I mean, it's just, he's in the
top
top 30 for sure. Like, yeah, he's one of San Antonio's best players, I think.
Hey, Dylan Harper outplayed him for large stretches, and he's a
Dylan
rookie.
Harper looked really good, didn't he?
He did. He did.
That was the
Yeah.
other part. Is like the bench for Miami. It wasn't the advantage that it had been in the previous 3 games. Miami had one of the best benches in the league. Jaime Jaquez Jr. coming in as that 6th man. He was just not. He just wasn't effective in this one. 2 of 8 overall, 6 points. Just really wasn't able to kind of get to his looks. And San Antonio's bench was really good, and it was basically because of Dylan Harper. Keldon Johnson went on a little bit of a run there also, but Dylan Harper basically matched Miami's bench for, I think, the meatiest part of this game. And that was tough. I mean, Simone Fontecchio came off the bench and scored 18 points. I don't want to overlook him. But, yeah, I mean, Jaime and Drew Smith, like, you just weren't, and you got nothing from Nico, who went over 5 in this game.
Yeah, he's continued to struggle. Making our preseason anticipation that he'd take the leap really looked like one of our worst calls ever, because he looked really good.
It's early. Come on, we're 5 games into it. I don't know.
I'm not buying it. I'm almost out, to be honest with you. I don't want to sound pessimistic, and Nico's our guy, and we appreciate everything he can do. And yet, this is year 5 now, where you're kind of hoping for something, and he just doesn't seem to figure it out. Maybe the demotion to the bench is affecting him to a certain degree. I'm not sure, because you would think, given Miami's fast-paced offense, that he'd find a way to flourish, but that has not been the case. And like, again, with him, especially with the 3-point shot, if he's not knocking those down, the confidence seems to wane, and it seems like it almost impacts every other aspect of his game. And so he's mostly been a non-factor despite everybody else's success this season.
I don't know. He had 20 points against Memphis. He was a big driver in that blowout win. He had, I thought he was pretty effective defensively against the Knicks. Had 6 points in that game. Better second half than first half. Charlotte, he had 10 points, 6 rebounds, 2 assists. I don't think he's been terrible, but to your point, you need to see more from him. Overall, though, do you share my feeling, even coming out of this? Unfortunate to start the trip with a loss. I don't feel that bad about it, considering how shorthanded this Heat team is. And by the way, good news, Norm Powell did go on the trip. So it's a 4-game trip. This is the first one. The Heat are leaving it open that Powell could return. These groin strains are always kind of finicky. You really never know. I mean, you can miss weeks with these things. You can miss days with these things. You never really know. But it's a good sign that Norman Powell is at least on the trip. They're going to need him to win these games. But just right now in this moment, after the first game, I'm not feeling terrible about this loss if I'm the Heat.
I would have liked them to start off with I don't want people to start thinking that this team is more of a mirage. And I think that's the nature of fandom. I think we're going to see a lot of people going up and down, and with every loss.
But what are the expectations? You're missing Powell and Hero. You're missing your entire backcourt. Like I said, you're missing 46 points in the backcourt, and you're replacing it with 16. And the Heat have their quote unquote worst offensive performance of the season by only scoring 101 points.
I get it. And yet they scored 144 without Powell against Charlotte. And that's absolutely a difference.
Yeah.
I get it. It's all relative.
On the road this time.
Yeah, no, absolutely. That's much more rational thinking. And yet I think it's disappointing. I will say it's disappointing. And at the same time, I will say, you know what? They played a pretty solid game overall, and there were some bright spots. A couple of players did step up, Bam and Wiggins chiefly among them. And yet I don't like the fact that Wembanyama was able to almost single-handedly just impact what looked like such a fluid part of their offense, because with him there, they weren't able to get those easy transition baskets. They weren't able to get the good looks at the rim that they had earlier in the season. And they were kind of flattened out in the sense where they had to really rely on their half-court offense, which has been a challenge that's been a challenge for a long time, especially without Jimmy Butler in the lineup.
Do you know how many blocks without looking? Don't look at the box score if you haven't looked already. Do you know how many blocks Wembanyama had?
Tonight?
Yeah.
I think he was credited with 4, right?
Oh, 5. It felt like more. I was like kind of half expecting to look at the box score and be like 7, 8.
There were a couple there that looked like goaltends, but
he did get away with a goal. Maybe it was the first quarter. It was in the first half. But what you just said about it was really disheartening to see Victor Wembanyama just ruin all of our plans. I remember listening to Nick Engstad over on Locked On Mavericks after the opening night, and his entire episode was Victor Wembanyama just beat us. And yeah, you're disappointed that happened, David. A lot of fans around the league are going to be very disappointed when they play Victor Wembanyama and the Spurs. He's that good. Even the Heat broadcasters being like, we don't want to overpraise Victor Wembanyama. I'm like, go ahead and overpraise. We haven't seen anything like this ever. It's fine to give credit where credit is due. Victor Wembanyama took over this game and he didn't even play that well to his standards, right? Like, I think the Heat did some really interesting things defensively that we're about to get into to kind of get him out of his rhythm. But defensively, there's just nothing you can do against this guy. We got a lot more to get to. We'll talk about Eric Spoelstra's interesting defensive strategies that he used against Victor Wembanyama, maybe something that other teams might be able to pick up on and have a little bit more success than Miami did this in this game. We'll talk about Andrew Wiggins apparently not caring about Victor Wembanyama, the only guy not affected by Victor Wembanyama. We'll talk about all that next.
Today's episode is brought to you by Robinhood. Your ambition just met its match. With Robinhood, you play for the win, not just on game day, every day. Locking in on every opening, beating your PR, beating it again. Channel that drive into your money. Robinhood puts you in control of your money. Trade stocks and ETFs, options, futures, and crypto, all on one platform. You can now build and execute your own trades from a desktop with Robinhood Legends advanced tools, or take advantage of the new Robinhood strategies with a tailored portfolio managed by a team of experts. You expect more from yourself. Expect more from your money. Get started today at robinhood.com/yourmoney. Again, that's robinhood.com/yourmoney. Your money, your move. Today's episode is also brought to you by DoorDash. The NBA season's heating up, and DoorDash has found the perfect way to keep fans in their bag all season long. Whether you're watching for the highlights, your fantasy team, or just your favorite player, DoorDash makes every game night even better. DoorDash is the official on-demand delivery platform of the NBA, and they're celebrating with something called the Bag Drop. Every time an NBA player scores 50 points in a game, DoorDash drops 50% off your order with Dash Pass the next day, and you're automatically entered for a chance to win the ultimate fan bag. We're talking player-inspired drip, exclusive gear, and stuff you'll actually want. It's not just food you can get with DoorDash either. You can get everything from snacks and drinks to headphones, ice, even socks, all delivered. DoorDash has you covered for late night highlights, last minute watch parties, and double OT fuel ups. So next time someone goes off for 50, use the promo code NBA50 the next day to get 50% off on DoorDash with Dash Pass. Plus, your shot at the backdrop. Dash Pass members only, 50% off up to $10 the day after a 50-point game with promo code. Terms do apply. No purchase necessary. Ends April 13th. Open to U.S. residents 21 or older. Visit DoorDashInYourBag.com for full details. DoorDash, in your bag all season long. We'll be right back.
Thanks again for making Locked On Heat your first listen every day. Let's talk about some player spotlights here, but we're not going to talk about a player to lead this thing off. We're going to talk about the coach, Eric Spoelstra. I thought what he did defensively was really interesting in this one. So, background really quick. Miami's defensive schemes this season have basically been, we're going to switch 1 through 4. Our center is going to drop, and that's essentially our defensive scheme. Switch things up defensively in this game. We saw zone for, I think, the first time all season. I don't recall seeing zone for, definitely not for this long of a stretch. It was a lot of the second half. Miami was in that zone defense. And then also willingly switching the Wembanyama stuff, which I thought was really interesting. We saw Davion Mitchell pinned up against Victor Wembanyama quite a bit. And this is a thought, David, that I've been having over the last, week or so. Is like, everybody's trying to play their bigs on Wemby, and he's just such a mismatch for them. I do wonder, though, because he's 7'5", and by the way, the Spurs list him at 7'4", and Basketball Reference lists him at 7'3". I'm listing him at 7'5". That guy's enormous. It's just a long way to dribble the ball, And I'm wondering if you put a smaller guy on him, if they might be able to disrupt that dribble a little bit more and create some turnovers. And we saw that happen. We saw Eric Spoelstra do that with Davion Mitchell, kind of guarding him there. Wemby had 3 turnovers in this game. It kind of felt like it could be more. But I thought Davion did a really nice job. We saw Wiggs matched up on him on switches a couple different times. I thought Wiggs had a couple of nice possessions on him. Also forced a turnover on Wemby in the second half at one point. I thought it was a really interesting scheme there. They didn't overhelp, right? They start with Bam and Kel'el Ware in the front court, with Bam guarding Wembanyama and then Kel'el on Harrison Barnes. And I see that on the opening possession. I'm like, oh, so they'll probably have Ware kind of come over as that weak side helper. Nope, not really.
Yep.
They just sort of they played him straight up. Even when Davion got switched there, a little bit of help pinching from the nail stuff, typical Eric Spoelstra stuff, but no overhelping, no real double teams there. They just played it straight up. And to your point, like Victor Wembanyama was fine offensively. I think he dominated this game more defensively. So I am interested to see going forward if other coaches maybe steal some of this from Miami.
It's it's an interesting question because I think Miami, strangely enough, as much as everybody's talking about their offense, defensively they've got a lot more versatility than you might expect. Bam, obviously, still maintaining his role as one of the most versatile defenders in the league, but you have Ware, who is long and can affect certain shots, and he did, I think, a pretty okay job. Mitchell also strong and quick enough to kind of use his kind of stout physicality to make things a little bit more difficult for Wembanyama, who's still underweight at his size, and maybe he can't get that leverage necessarily when a guy.
Yeah, you can get up under him.
Yeah. So if you keep him from his spots, yeah, he's going to turn around and knock down that jumper. But it felt like a lot of his shots were basically created off of lobs or putbacks, or maybe if there was a switch here that didn't work out and Wembanyama found himself wide open, maybe because of a blown defensive assignment, then he would get his cuts to the rim. And again, for him, it's just two steps and he's inside the painted area, and that's all it takes for him to launch for a dunk. So I think the jumper was almost, to my recollection anyway, pretty neutralized. He was only 1 of 5, I think, from 3-point range, so not a great shooting night from him, but still finished with 20-something points because, well, he's as long and gifted as he is. But I think the defensive principles that Spo rolled out there were an interesting challenge for a player who's looked really dominant.
Yeah.
They made him look just pretty good, which is still very good. It's still,
You mentioned jumpers there. I just wanted to jump in on that because I pulled up the graphic on the NBA website so people watching on YouTube could see this. At the rim, he did Wemby stuff. He made everything. He's enormous. He's going to make everything. They really did. He only made one real 2-point jumper in the entire game. He had one free throw line jumper that he made. Other than that, it's a lot of misses, and that's sort of pushing him off his spots, making him fade away. That's kind of what you want to do. You just want to rough him up a little bit in those. There's nothing you're going to do when he's by the basket. The goal is to make sure he doesn't get by the basket. I think one of the reasons they switched everything, by the way, was to try to flatten that part of it out. Hey, we're not going to give you that open roll to the basket. We're willing to live with you taking Davion Mitchell or Andrew Wiggins or Jaime Jaquez Jr. In a matchup 15 feet away from the basket, as opposed to us not switching it and you're getting to the rim. And we're going to try to live with those jumpers. And I think it did work for the most part in this game. So that was the interesting strategy, I thought, on Victor Wembanyama. So that I think it was worth highlighting, and I think Eric Spoelstra deserves a ton of credit. The other thing that Spo did, which we saw when they played the Knicks, was he aligned Bam's minutes with Karl Anthony Towns against the Knicks. He did the same thing tonight for the most part. Again, it's not perfect, but tried his best to align Bam's minutes with Victor Wembanyama. So instead of Kel'el Ware coming out at the halfway point of the first quarter, Bam came out, because Victor Wembanyama always comes out at the 6-minute mark of the first quarter. They knew that going into it, so they kind of just jiggered the rotations really quick to reflect that and align Bam's minutes with Wemby. So another thing to keep an eye on, and a trend whenever the Heat play, one of these all-NBA type centers, it looks like that's what he's going to do with Bam and his rotation. The other guy we have to talk about, though, is Wiggs. What a game, man. Go ahead.
No, I was going to say, like, you're speaking about matching up with other big centers. You can't do the same thing, I think, with Nikola Jokic, who will be on the 4th game of this road trip. Like, that's a completely different style of play. So I think I'm curious to see how those minutes are aligned, because to me, I think of the two, Bam is much better equipped to defend Jokic than Ware is. So I wonder whether or not he's going to tweak that a little bit. Just something to look at moving forward. But that's a conversation
in terms of aligning Bam's minutes with Jokic's.
Yeah,
I think we'll probably see that. Bam does historically a pretty good job. I mean, nobody does a great job guarding Jokic, but but that's what I'm saying. Like, he aligned Bam's minutes with Katz, and he aligned Bam's minutes with Wembanyama's, and he'll probably try to align Bam's minutes with Jokic, because Jokic he'll just push Kel'el Ware into the stands, right? Like, there's nothing Ware's gonna be able to do against that. Wiggs, man, talk about a guy not bothered at all by Victor. Did anybody even tell him that Victor Wembanyama was playing? I don't think he even bothered to look at the scouting report. He was just like, what is this piece of paper? I don't need this. I'm gonna go at the basket. What a game for Andrew Wiggins. 24 points on 11 of 18 shooting. He had 6 rebounds. My favorite part about this, 3 of those, half of his rebounds were offensive rebounds. My thing with Wiggs. When he's offensive rebounding, he's super engaged. Not only was he doing that, He was scoring. He had, in the opening moments of this game, a layup right over Victor Wembanyama. And everybody in the arena was like, you can do that? You can just sky over Victor Wembanyama? We don't see the athleticism that made Andrew Wiggins a number one pick a lot anymore. Partly just because he's older at this stage of his career, but also because he doesn't really engage that mode all that often. But we saw it in that instance, and it's a little bit of a reminder of what Wiggs is capable of. Tremendous game from him.
Another point, I think he dropped his shoulder into Wembanyama, kind of pushed off the spot, then spun around on him and got an easier layup that Wembanyama just couldn't challenge because he had taken him out using his strength. So that was an impressive overall game. He looked really, really solid. Unfortunately, that it came in a loss, but he was Miami's best player tonight. I think you could probably say that, although maybe you could give some credit to Bam as well.
I would go Bam, but yeah, I mean, it was those two guys carrying him. Yeah,
no doubt. And yeah, to your point, I think Wiggs unbothered by Wembanyama. I think maybe he got his shot blocked a couple of times, or if I recall correctly. But either way, no, it was just a much more aggressive version of him. And it's good to see that, because if you can get that at the same time as you're getting this version of Bam Adebayo, and you have either Powell and or Tyler out there, that bodes well for Miami, because again, this was the hope for us moving forward, or starting the season, is that we thought if you could get all these players to kind of ignite at least simultaneously, or maybe at some point at varying points throughout the course of the game, then that makes Miami pretty lethal. And I think we saw how good Wiggins could be when he's really aggressive and just looking for his shot.
He had a 3 in the last couple minutes that cut San Antonio's lead to 8.
Yeah.
And they were right there in striking distance. And then Jaime and Davion fail on a 2-on-1 fast break that would have cut it to 6.
Too many sloppy turnovers.
Yeah. But you got to give credit where it's due. And for Wiggins, like he was literally keeping Miami in that game in the first and the second half. The other guy really quick that we want to shout out here, Simone Fontecchio, the Italian stallion, 18 points off the bench. He goes 5 of 7 from 3-point range, made his first 3. I believe I have that. I think maybe he missed the 4th one, but this guy doesn't really miss shots, especially not from 3-point range. He's so quick with the release. B-Ball Breakdown did this thing I saw earlier where he catches the ball in the palm of his hands. His fingers don't even touch the ball until the release. And I think that's really interesting. Like it's so quick with him. And it's just, he gets his shoulder squared. He's able to shoot on the move. What a steal in that Pistons trade, man. Like he's been great for Miami to open the season. He's not going to shoot like this for the rest of the season. He'll have his slumps, but right now he's shooting the lights out.
Yeah, he's been great. And I think, again, solid defensively, just a little bit more willing to attack too. And you can do things differently. I don't think, as good as his shooting's been, it doesn't feel like he's just a shooter, as opposed to what we saw with Duncan Robinson in the first few seasons in Miami, where he was kind of just viewed in that regard. And not until he started diversifying his game a little bit could you expect something different, perhaps, if the 3-point shot wasn't necessarily as effective. But with Fontecchio, he's just been really, really good. And he has a knack for drawing fouls even as he's taking that shot, maybe because of his length. It's one of the points of contention I always had with Duncan. It's, kind of, he needed to be reminded he's 6'7". You could shoot over these people. Fontecchio doesn't need reminding. He's totally aware of it, and he'll just pull up and raise in for that jumper. And it looks good. And he's, when he all of a sudden pulls up as quickly as he does, to your point, he's able to draw those fouls, because you have to go, oh, damn. And you have to kind of, try to come back and see if you can guard it, and then you wind up committing a foul. And he did that on a couple occasions, although I think the second time it was on the screen from Bam Adebayo, where he drew a 4-point play after Fontecchio hit the 3, and then Bam was pushed by Harper, I believe.
Yeah, but if Bam doesn't get pushed by Harper, then they're calling the foul on Fontecchio because he got fouled after.
More than likely.
Got fouled. Yeah.
More than likely, yeah. So,
you know who also doesn't need reminders that he could shoot threes? Bam Adebayo, apparently. Is 13 3-point attempts too many for Bam? We'll answer that next.
Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. The NBA is back, and there's no better place to get in on the action than FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. Even if you miss the start of the game or want to ride the hot hand, FanDuel has live bets on everything from who will score next to fourth quarter comebacks. Plus, you can even combine your live bets into a same-game parlay for a shot at a bigger payout. It keeps every game exciting, especially when your team's making that late push. And right now, FanDuel is giving new customers $300 in bonus bets when your first $5 bet wins. So head to FanDuel.com to sign up and play your game with FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. We'll be right back.
Before we jump into listener questions, I just want to clarify something that I said on the podcast yesterday when we were talking about the Terry Rozier scandal and all of that stuff. I had said that if he's suspended, that he would no longer count on the Heat's roster, that the Heat's roster would go from 14 to 13 players. That was inaccurate, and that's my fault, and I apologize for that because that's a mistake on my end. He would still technically be on the roster, so the Heat wouldn't be forced to go out and add another player to the roster to hit that 14-player league minimum. So I wanted to clarify that before we got into our listener questions, because we are about accuracy here on Locked On Heat. But let's jump into some listener questions. Thanks to everybody who sent in questions via the Locked On Heat Insider community. Get the chance to ask these questions for post-game shows, get live game notes during games, and much more by joining the Locked On Heat Insider community with the link in the show notes. Andrew writes in, thoughts on Bam's three-point attempts? Was it a positive that he was willing to take that many, considering the opposition? He'll have a better shooting night from three, of course. Ayad also writes in, is Bam taking too many threes? David, I knew he was taking a lot of threes, and then I looked at the box score at the end of the game, and I was like, whoa, 13 three-point attempts. I don't even need to look it up. That is a career high in 13-point attempts for Bam, I promise. Maybe after making a mistake on Rozier, I should look it up, but I'm 99.9% sure that's a career high.
Yeah, I can't recall him taking 13.
No, it's a career high
point either. But I don't think it's too many. I think one, you'd like him to hit maybe one more of those. 5 of 13 feels like something doable for Bam. Ideally, yeah, he'd go for 6 of 13. That would be much better. Like he looked fluid on his shot, and I think that's the whole thing, is that they're coming mostly within rhythm. I think it's kind of I don't even know if it's by design necessarily, but he is just kind of spraying out to the 3-point line, and he's a shooter at this stretch. And I think you have to kind of take that into consideration. And I don't think he's hijacking the offense. I don't think he's doing anything that would take away from a better offensive possession. The shots look good in themselves. And I think it's also a byproduct of having to challenge Wembanyama. No one's going to get those kind of looks at the rim. So to Bam's credit, he recognized, you know what, if I want to try and make an impact offensively, I can do that from beyond the line. And it worked. Again, 4 of 13. You'd like it to be better, but it wasn't a bad shooting night overall. And I think he was still very effective, even when he was in 2-point range. Did have a ridiculous dunk where it wasn't necessarily on Wembanyama, but he drove baseline and he made Wembanyama look absolutely foolish. He was able to get past him and just yammed it as hard a dunk. Maybe I think you tweeted this out. I think they said it in the broadcast as well. Perhaps the signature play of his career. It was that impressive.
I would consider that dunking on Victor Wembanyama, just because as long as Wembanyama is on the court, he is capable of blocking the shot. So you can't have it both ways, Wemby. I think that's dunking on Victor Wembanyama. I'm okay with it. It has everything to do with Victor Wembanyama being on the court. That's what this is. But still, 13 3-point attempts, 27 field goal attempts, and 4 free throws. Most of his work still was below the arc, within the arc. So it wasn't like he was exclusively shooting from outside. He was getting that dunk. He was still doing stuff inside. He was just really aggressive. He was taking a lot of shots. And it turns out that a bunch of those shots happened to come from 3-point range. It is a lot of threes, though. And I want to make that very clear. Here's the list of players this season who have taken at least 13 threes. And the names make sense here. These are not Bam Adebayo names. Steph Curry, Devin Vassell, Sam Hauser, Lauri Markkanen, Anthony Simons, Grayson Allen, Dylan Brooks, Nikola Jokic, VJ Edgecombe, Derek White. These are the guys taking 13 threes. Perimeter guys, Steph Curry, Lauri Markkanen, guys who have made their bones shooting threes. And now, of course, Bam Adebayo. But I love it. I love that he's comfortable with the shot. Everybody was begging for him to take threes for years. Beggars can't be choosers. He did it. He had a great game. It wasn't like it came in a bad game. To your point, it felt like it was in the flow of the offense. I'm okay with it. Is he ever going to take 13 threes again? I would be surprised if he ever took this many threes again for the rest of his career. But who knows? The NBA is going in some crazy directions. Let's go quickly through our last few questions, lightning round style. Billy writes in, So it might be premature, but I have been thoroughly unimpressed by Kel'el Ware this season. I know Bam doesn't really want to be the center, but I can see Hero replacing Ware and having Powell and Wiggins slide to the 3-4 spot when Hero returns if Ware doesn't shape up. Any idea why Ware isn't taking a step up? So a couple of different things there from Billy. But Kel'el Ware, I mean, you flagged this going into this game. This was a game that he needed to step up, maybe take personally, come out with energy and urgency, and he did not.
He did not. Offensively, he struggled. Just didn't seem like he was willing to attack Wembanyama, and he settled for the 3-point shot, and he missed all of his attempps. So he looked
all 4 of his
bad
shots were threes. Yep.
Yeah, he just did not look good out there. So he was a little. He was a factor in terms of rebounding, and other than that, not much of anything else out there on the floor. I mean, and when you're legit 7 feet tall, you're going to be able to rebound to a certain degree. So it was not a great game. I don't know why he's struggling. It doesn't seem like it makes sense because I feel like he should be able to capitalize on this opportunity, but it doesn't seem like he wants to do the things in the painted area. And for a player like Wembanyama, who's taken his leap this season, he went through it. Like, as good as Wembanyama was in his first 2 seasons, a lot of people questioned his shot selection too until this season. Now he's been much more engaged at, well, doing what he does best, which is scoring around the rim. So I think make the same adjustment at some point. If not this season, then maybe next season. But certainly it looks like he's settling for the 3-point shot when he could probably be much more effective as a rim roller.
You hope that comes, right? And this came in year 3 for Wemby. Maybe it comes in year 3 for Kel'el, but yeah, it's a great point. Next question really quick. Eric writes in, first third quarter of the year, what was wrong with Davion Mitchell? He lost the ball and just played slow tonight. I think the offense overall played slow tonight, and that didn't help Davion Mitchell. He did kind of just run into a Spurs defense a couple times and just lose the ball. Wasn't his best night, but I'm not overly concerned about it.
Yeah, me neither. I mean, they've got a good defensive backcourt. I mean, Vassell, Castle, Harper looks solid too.
Mm-hmm.
Like he was really good as a scorer. But I mean, and again, I think it's all built on the foundation of having Wembanyama there. Like what Miami had done so effectively over the first 4 games of the season, they were not allowed to do because you cannot attack the paint. I don't know what the stats are as for teams shooting in the paint or restricted area against Victor Wembanyama and the Spurs. It probably ain't good. And you could see that with Miami tonight, where a lot of those opportunities, they're pushing, they get to the painted area, and all of a sudden it's like, you know what? Let me pull back just a little bit because I don't think I'm going to be able to get this shot off. With the exception of Andrew Wiggins, nobody was willing to do that. Bam on a couple of occasions. I saw Hyman get negated. Mitchell was negated. Jovic was negated. Like, none of the players that you needed to pop in any way or be able to provide that, that secondary offense, none of them were able to do so because of Wembanyama. And it does lead to turnovers.
Wemby leads the league in forcing players to hear footsteps. Right? Like, that's just it. Last one here. We're going to do it quickly. Malachi writes in, our half-court offense continues to struggle. How can we fix it? I feel like San Antonio did a great job defensively against our strengths tonight and forced us to play out of our normal strengths. My quick answer to this, David, before we start using the word fix in relation to the half-court offense, I want to see it with Tyler Hero healthy and then obviously Norm Powell back.
Yeah, that's fair. I think that's a big point is you have to have 2 really good scorers. Because think about it, even in half court, like you've seen Powell use his north-south ability to just put the ball down and create opportunities that way, where he might draw a defender. He might be able to draw Wembanyama and maybe a secondary defender. And if that's the case, maybe he kicks it out to a wide-open shooter. Maybe some of those wide-open 3-point shots go down, and maybe the outcome of the game is completely different. So who knows? We did see that when Powell played the first 3 games of the season. Unfortunately, haven't been able to see it the last 2, although Miami's offense was significantly better against Charlotte. But I think, again, that's a byproduct of playing the Hornets.
Again, 46 points combined from Hero and Powell. 16 points. Like, you're not even replacing them with like an Alec Burks type guy who's sort of this microwave professional scorer. It's Pelle Larsson and Davion Mitchell, who are not, they're known for a lot of things. Scoring ain't one of them. So it's a 30-point drop off between the backcourt that you thought you'd have at the start of the year and the backcourt you did it. Nothing against Davion Mitchell, Pelle Larsson, but you're missing a lot of scoring there. So before we start worrying about the half court, I just want to see this team healthy. And then if we have issues at that point, then we can start throwing around the word fix. Let us know what you think in the comments about this loss. Are you feeling optimistic? Do you feel like it was just you ran into Victor Wembanyama and the Spurs are 5-0, and what are you going to do about it? Thank you for making Locked On Heat your first listen every day. Have a great weekend.